country a favour.
The Honourable Minister, Jonathan.
Well, Mr. Chair, I feel very lucky that I've actually come down to the House and happen to be here, because that is a speech that needs knocking back, and it's a speech which quotes many things out of context. It's a sad speech, actually, from a once good minister and a once good Member of Parliament, but frankly who's seen much better days, and frankly it was a shabby...
Point of order, the Honourable.
I'm sorry to interrupt the Minister, but since he questioned my integrity in what I quoted, I seek leave to quote the entire table the entire transcript of the estimates hearing before the Select Committee a couple of weeks ago.
Is there any objection to that course of action being taken? There is none.
Secondly, Mr. Chairman, I seek leave to table the document from the Auditor-General that makes the points about the drop in morale and increase in attrition resulting in reduced capability.
Any objection to that course of action being taken? There is none.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It was a sad speech because that member continued to quote selectively from the Select Committee transcript, and he made many points which actually were refuted at the Select Committee itself. And I think actually what this man is doing is continuing to undermine the morale of our troops. And the fact that now he won't let me speak and he's determined to try and shout me down actually proves the point. Because Phil Goff is no longer a member that deals in facts, and that's very sad, because what he said there was that the government has cut funding in defence. That actually is incorrect. We had this debate in the Select Committee, and it's absolutely true. If anyone goes away and reads it, they will find that Phil Goff was taking figures out of context, he was twisting them, and in actual fact, there wasn't a cut. When we talk about the numbers in the Defence Force, Phil Goff knows full well that there was a Defence White Paper in 2010, that it looked at the priorities that the government set for defence, it looks at the force configuration that's needed, and the number of 8,500 people across the three services that we have full-time is actually the number that's needed to act on the government's priorities. So for him to continue to make out that there have been deliberate cuts in numbers to save money is plain wrong. The other thing that he continues to state is that there are issues around training of troops in Afghanistan. And he mentioned specifically there Colonel Brett Wellington, who took the stand and actually said our people were well trained in Afghanistan on that crib mission when he took command. So it's a bit sad really that Phil Goff actually is out there trying to stir up trouble, exploiting the deaths of soldiers like Private Hughes, Corporal Hughes, Private Ross, to make political points, because he knows that many of the facts he is quoting, or so-called facts, are actually absolutely incorrect. And what he was saying there about the Defence Force order that listed journalists alongside extremist groups and foreign intelligence services, what he forgets to tell you is that the whole time he was Defence Minister, that order was there, that order was signed by the Labor government. So anything you hear from Phil Goff, you have to know that this is a sad, disillusioned member who, frankly, at his time of life and at his trajectory in his career, should be leaving. What I will tell you here, Darian Fenton calling me Mr. Nasty, well, that's an interesting one. What I will tell you is, look, all defence forces internationally have faced challenges across the Western world. We've been operating within fixed baselines, and we have a plan which has actually moved resources from the back of the office to the front line. So we've been funding troops, we've been funding capabilities, just like Tony Ryle has been doing in health. And it's actually been incredibly successful, because what are we doing? We're bringing new capabilities to the front line, new helicopters, we're opening a new SAS training base, we're funding the operation of those. Oh, it's all Phil Goff again. Here he goes. Phil Goff says he paid for them. Wasn't the taxpayer. This is the rantings of a sad has-been. He knows it's all gone, he knows he'll never be a minister again, but it's all disappeared. But I think it's time that Phil Goff started to back our people, because actually there's two versions of the truth. There's Phil Goff's version, and there's actually what goes on at the front line with our defence people. And if you talk to defence people, they will tell you it's been a period of change, but they're actually very focused on the future, Mr. Chair.
The Honourable Minister.
So, you know, it's sad really, because there was once a time when Labor took a bipartisan approach with National on defence and security matters. But now it seems they are so electorally desperate that they will grasp any opportunity to try and make political hay. And I'm especially disappointed in Phil Goff, because when you see the GCSB legislation, Phil Goff knows that that's legislation the government actually needs to push through for the security of New Zealanders, because he's been a Foreign Affairs Minister, he's been a Defence Minister, yet he weakly sits back and chooses to play politics. He plays politics with everything. If you look at the Corporal Hughes case that he quotes, a very sad case in Afghanistan, subject to a suppression order, Phil Goff tells this House that the government has suppressed the Court of Inquiry. I would love to release in public the full text of that Court of Inquiry. But as Phil Goff knows, well, I invite you to release it. But you'll be breaking the suppression order, Phil Goff. You'll be breaking the law. And I'm very much hoping that Phil Goff will be held answerable. I would love to release it because it would show really what went on. But the problem with Phil Goff is he continues to dance on the graves of our dead soldiers. And that is a disgrace. That is a disgrace. It's a disgrace.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Phil Goff.
Mr. Speaker, for the Minister of Defence to accuse me of dancing on the graves of dead soldiers, more particularly since I've lost a member of my family in Afghanistan, is disgraceful, despicable. I take offence, and I ask you to ask him to withdraw that comment and apologise for making it.
Thank you, Phil Goff. I understand the situation, and I would ask the Minister to withdraw that comment.
I withdraw and apologise. But look, this is very much the point. Phil Goff can stand there calling me a liar, a person of low integrity. I'm happy to accept that from him because this is a robust parliamentary environment. But once you start telling the truth about Phil Goff, he gets very upset. He gets very, very upset. He cannot handle it. He talks about attrition in the Defence Force. I can tell you, attrition in the Defence Force is lower than its peak under Labor, when Phil Goff was Defence Minister. Morale in the Defence Force is higher than it was at its worst when Phil Goff was Defence Minister. Now, I'd be very happy to work with Phil Goff because Phil Goff's actually not a bad guy. You saw him up in Honiara last week. We had a good discussion, and to be honest, we have robust debates in here, but I just wish he would be a bit more bipartisan. I wish he would back our people in Afghanistan. I wish he would actually just not be totally trying to undermine people all the time, undermining the Defence Force, because frankly, in the end, it doesn't reflect well on Phil Goff, because we know, and Phil Goff actually secretly will agree, we know that both parties wants the best for the Defence Force. We know that our people do an excellent job, and I wish our Labor colleagues would actually get behind our people in the Defence Force, because personnel tell me they are sick of hearing of Phil Goff's rubbish. Actually, it's been a time of change in the Defence Force, but the Defence Force is going forward. They don't need politicians constantly trying to undermine the very good work our people have done in the Solomons, in East Timor, in Afghanistan, in the Sinai, in Korea, in South Sudan. We need the Labor Party to actually back the national government in defence policy to take a constructive approach looking forward. And so, Phil Goff, my message to you is don't distort the facts. Don't quote selectively from that Select Committee report. Just tell us what your government would do differently. Because I know actually your government would not respond to these challenges any differently. And the fact is, morale now is a lot higher in the RNZAF than when you cut the Skyhawks, the strike wing, back in 2000. And, you know, I have never made any such promise. But look, I can tell you, we have an excellent Defence Force. We have great people. The Labor opposition needs to shut up and listen during these debates, get up and make some positive contributions when we're talking about defence, because we've got very good people there. The future is good for defence. The government totally backs the New Zealand Defence Force, and the feedback I'm getting is that our people in defence are looking to the future and looking to making a very strong, worthwhile contribution to New Zealand's future. Thank you.
The question is that Defence Force stand part of the schedule. Those of that opinion will please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that state services stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that foreign affairs and trade stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will please say aye. Those of the contrary opinion, no. The ayes have it. The question now is official development assistance stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will please say aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that sport and recreation stand part of the schedules. Many of that opinion will please say aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote corrections stand part of the schedules. I call the Honourable Member Asanati Lole Taylor. Talofa lava.